E-Galaxy, humanity clings to survival within the crumbling walls of the beacon, its last refuge. But what if this ancient station holds more than just shelter? A former pilot discovers a secret weapon created by a long-lost civilization that once fought the same enemy threatening humanity today. Activating it could turn the tide, but at what cost? With time running out and the crisis closing in, they must decide whether to wield unimaginable power or risk everything searching for another way. Subscribe now to uncover the fate of humanity in this epic sci-fi saga. The beacon was never meant to be a home. Originally constructed as a deep space research outpost centuries ago, it had become humanity's final bastion, a crumbling relic housing the remnants of a species on the brink of extinction. Its corridors echoed with the footsteps of fewer than 500 survivors, their faces etched with exhaustion and despair. Outside, the void stretched endlessly, silent save for the occasional hum of failing machinery. Elias Voss hadn't planned to end up here. Once a celebrated pilot known for his daring missions into uncharted space, he now spent his days scavenging derelict ships for parts to keep the beacon operational. His once pristine flight suit was patched and faded, mirroring the decay around him. Yet Elias carried himself with quiet determination, clinging to the belief that there was still something worth fighting for, even if he wasn't sure what that was anymore. The war with the Crisis had been swift and merciless. Emerging from the dark recesses of the galaxy, these insectoid invaders moved like a plague, consuming resources and leaving behind barren husks of planets. Humanity's fleets were decimated in battles where sheer numbers overwhelmed strategy. By the time retreat became inevitable, only fragments of society remained, scattered across the stars. Now, the beacon stood as both sanctuary and tomb, a fragile bubble holding back the endless night. For all its flaws, it was safe for now. But safety was a luxury Elias didn't trust. Too many times, he'd seen hope crumble under the weight of reality. One evening, while repairing a malfunctioning airlock, Elias stumbled upon something unusual. Hidden beneath layers of rust and grime was a panel unlike any he'd seen before, etched with intricate patterns that glowed faintly when touched. Intrigued, he pried it open to reveal a chamber containing a small, crystalline device pulsing with an otherworldly light. It hummed softly, resonating through his bones like a forgotten melody. "What the hell is this?" Elias muttered, turning the object over in his hands. Before he could investigate further, alarms blared throughout the station. Another Crisis scout ship had entered sensor range. The beacon's defenses were laughable at best, a patchwork of outdated turrets and hastily assembled barriers designed to buy time rather than repel attacks. Still, every incursion brought the same dread. Would this be the one that broke through? As engineers scrambled to man the turrets, Captain Ria Solis, the station's de facto leader, addressed the crew. Her voice crackled over the intercom, calm but firm. "Stay focused. We've handled worse." Elias doubted that. Every skirmish left them weaker, eating away at their already limited resources. Yet, despite the odds, they held their ground, driving the scout ship back into the void. Afterward, Elias returned to the hidden chamber, unable to shake the feeling that the device he'd found was important. He took it to Dr. Alaric Voss, the station's resident xenotechnologist and Elias's estranged uncle. "This isn't human," Alaric said after hours of analysis. "It predates us by millennia. Whoever built it was advanced, far beyond anything we've encountered." "And the symbols?" Elias asked, pointing to the glowing etchings. "Some kind of warning," Alaric replied. "But about what? I can't say yet." Over the next few days, Elias became obsessed. He spent hours poring over logs and schematics, searching for clues about the device's origins. What he uncovered was staggering. The beacon wasn't just a research station. It was part of a network of installations created by an ancient civilization known as the Valkyrie. They too had faced the Crisis and lost. The device, according to fragmented records, was a weapon capable of unleashing catastrophic energy. It had been sealed away, deemed too dangerous to use. But why seal it here? Elias wondered aloud. Because they hoped someone smarter would figure out how to control it, Alaric suggested grimly. News of the discovery spread quickly among the crew, sparking heated debates. Some saw the weapon as humanity's salvation, a chance to strike back against the Critus and reclaim their future. Others viewed it as a death sentence, fearing the consequences of tampering with forces they didn't understand. Captain Solis called a meeting to discuss options. Gathered in the command center were key figures: Elias, Alaric, Chief Engineer Marcus Hale, and Lieutenant Commander Priya Patel, Head of Defense. Each brought a different perspective, shaping the conversation that followed. "We're dying anyway," Marcus argued. "If this thing can wipe out the Critus, why not use it?" "It's not that simple," Alaric countered. "Activating it could destabilize the entire system. We might destroy ourselves along with them." Priya nodded. "And even if we succeed, we don't know how the Critus will respond. This could escalate things beyond our control." Elias listened silently, weighing the arguments. Finally, he spoke. "We need more data. If we can understand how it works, maybe we can find a way to minimize the risks." Rhea agreed. "Then let's focus on that. Elias, you and Alaric dig deeper into the archives. Marcus, ensure the station's defenses are ready for anything. Priya, monitor Critus activity. Time is not on our side." The deeper Elias and Alaric delved into the archives, the clearer it became that the Valkyrie had faced challenges eerily similar to humanity's own. Their civilization had thrived until the arrival of the Critus, whose insatiable hunger for resources drove them across galaxies. The Valkyrie fought valiantly, developing technologies far beyond human comprehension. But ultimately they succumbed, not to military defeat, but to environmental collapse triggered by their own desperation. "They created this weapon as a last resort," Alaric explained, showing Elias a series of diagrams depicting massive energy surges emanating from the device. "They called it the Singularity Core. It generates enough power to obliterate entire fleets, or star systems." "But they never used it," Elias noted. "No," Alaric confirmed. "They chose extinction instead. Whatever this thing does, it scared even them." Despite the warnings, Elias couldn't ignore the potential benefits. If they could harness the core's power without triggering its destructive capabilities, they might stand a chance. But doing so required deciphering the alien language embedded in its programming, a task made nearly impossible by the lack of context. Meanwhile, tensions aboard the beacon grew. Supplies dwindled, tempers flared, and whispers of mutiny began circulating among the crew. Some believed activating the core was their only option. Others thought it reckless and suicidal. While Elias and Alaric worked tirelessly to decode the core's mechanisms, Captain Solis struggled to maintain order. Rumors spread faster than facts, fueling paranoia and dissent. A group led by Marcus advocated immediate activation, arguing that waiting only increased the risk of discovery by the Critus. "We're sitting ducks," Marcus shouted during one particularly heated debate. "If we don't act now, we'll lose our chance. And if we screw it up, we'll lose everything." Priya snapped back. "We need a plan, not blind faith." Caught between factions, Rhea turned to Elias for guidance. "You've been closest to this thing. Can it work?" "I don't know," Elias admitted. "But I do know we're running out of alternatives." Reluctantly, Rhea authorized limited testing of the core, under strict supervision. Using low-power simulations, they attempted to activate its systems incrementally, hoping to identify triggers for its destructive functions. Progress was slow, hampered by incomplete data and unpredictable results. Then came the breakthrough. During a routine test, the core emitted a pulse that disrupted nearby electronics, temporarily disabling several stations. While alarming, the event provided crucial insight. The core's energy output was modifiable, suggesting it might be possible to direct its power without causing widespread devastation. "This changes things," Alaric said, excitement mingling with caution. "If we can isolate the targeting matrix, we might be able to aim it at specific coordinates." "But aiming where?" Elias asked. Hitting the wrong target could start a chain reaction. The activation of the Singularity Core was both a triumph and a tragedy. As the survivors watched from the relative safety of the nebula, the beacon-like pulse of energy illuminated the void one last time before the beacon itself disintegrated under the strain. The station that had sheltered them, flawed and decaying though it was, had given its all to ensure their escape. Elias sat in silence aboard the lead shuttle, his hands gripping the controls tightly as he processed what they'd done. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him. Hundreds of lives now depended on decisions made in desperation. Behind him, the refugees murmured quietly, some crying softly, others staring blankly at the stars outside the viewport. They were alive, but at what cost? Dr. Alaric Voss joined him in the cockpit, his expression somber. "We did what we had to," he said, though his tone lacked conviction. "But this isn't over. The Critus will regroup, and when they do," he trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. Elias nodded grimly. "Then we need to be ready. Whatever happens next, we can't afford to make the same mistakes." As the shuttles navigated deeper into the nebula, Elias called a meeting with the remaining leadership team: Captain Ria Solis, Chief Engineer Marcus Hale, Lieutenant Commander Priya Patel, and a handful of others who had managed to survive the evacuation. Together, they assessed their situation. Supplies were critically low, morale was fragile, and their options were limited. "We need a new base," Ria stated firmly. "Somewhere defensible, somewhere we can rebuild." "But where?" Marcus asked, frustration evident in his voice. "Every habitable planet or station is either destroyed or overrun by the Critus." "There's always the outworlds," Priya suggested. "Uncharted regions beyond the galactic rim. If we're lucky, we might find something usable before the Critus track us down." It wasn't much of a plan, but it was all they had. With no better alternatives, the group agreed to set course for the unexplored frontier, hoping against hope that salvation lay hidden among the stars. The journey through the nebula was fraught with peril. Dense clouds of ionized gas interfered with sensors and communications, leaving the fleet blind and vulnerable. Every shadow seemed to harbor unseen threats, every flicker of light a potential enemy vessel closing in. Tension aboard the shuttles remained high, exacerbated by cramped quarters and dwindling rations. Despite these challenges, Elias found himself reflecting on the events that had brought them here. The Singularity Core had been a gamble, a desperate bid to tilt the scales in humanity's favor, but it had worked, at least temporarily. Yet the victory felt hollow. Too many had been left behind, too many sacrifices made, without certainty of success. His thoughts turned to the Valkyrie, the ancient civilization whose legacy they now carried. What must it have been like for them, facing the same relentless foe? Had they debated as fiercely, hoped as fervently, only to see their efforts end in ruin? Elias couldn't help but wonder if humanity was destined to follow the same path, or if there was still a chance to break the cycle. Alaric interrupted his musings with an update. "I've been analyzing the core's residual energy signature," he explained, holding up a tablet displaying complex graphs. "It's fading, but not entirely gone. There's a possibility we could replicate its effects using less destructive means, if we had access to the right materials." "Meaning?" Elias prompted. "Meaning we might not need another core to fight back," Alaric replied. "But it'll take time, and resources we don't currently have." Time was a luxury they couldn't afford. Reports from scout drones indicated increased Critus activity along the edge of the nebula, suggesting their pursuers were closing in. "We'll worry about that later," Ria interjected. "For now, our priority is finding a safe haven." Days turned into weeks as the fleet ventured deeper into the nebula. Progress was slow, hindered by unpredictable gravitational anomalies and frequent equipment malfunctions. Tempers flared as patience wore thin, and arguments broke out over ration distribution and navigation priorities. Amidst the chaos, Elias noticed subtle shifts in the crew's dynamics. Bonds formed between unlikely allies, forged in shared hardship. Conversations once dominated by fear and despair began to include cautious optimism, tentative plans for the future. Even Marcus, who had initially clashed with nearly everyone, started contributing ideas rather than complaints. Then, Just as hope seemed ready to falter, the scanners detected something extraordinary, a derelict space station drifting silently within the nebula. Its design was unfamiliar, neither human nor Valkyrie, but its structural integrity appeared intact. "This could be it," Rhea said during an emergency briefing. "A place to regroup, refit, and prepare for whatever comes next. But what if it's a trap?" Priya countered. "Or worse, already occupied by something hostile?" Elias weighed the risks carefully. "We don't have a choice. If we stay out here, we're sitting ducks. At least inside, we'll have walls to protect us." With unanimous agreement, the fleet approached cautiously, weapons armed and shields raised. Docking procedures were tense, every creak and groan of the station's aging infrastructure setting nerves on edge. But as teams conducted preliminary sweeps, no immediate threats emerged. The station, dubbed Sanctuary by the crew, was vast and labyrinthine, its corridors lined with alien technology far beyond anything they'd encountered before. Power systems hummed faintly, dormant but functional. Environmental controls responded sluggishly but effectively. It was imperfect, but it was theirs for now. Establishing Sanctuary as a viable base required monumental effort. Teams worked around the clock to restore basic utilities, repair damaged sections, and fortify defenses. Engineers reverse-engineered alien systems, adapting them to human needs while learning valuable lessons about sustainable design. Meanwhile, Elias and Alaric focused on unraveling the mysteries of the station itself. Initial scans revealed traces of an advanced AI buried deep within its core, seemingly deactivated but still operational. Fragments of data hinted at its creators, an enigmatic species known as the Thalorians, who had vanished millennia ago, leaving behind only remnants of their once great empire. They were explorers, not warriors, Alaric surmised after translating fragments of text. This station may have served as a hub for scientific research, possibly even diplomacy. "What happened to them?" Elias asked. "No one knows," Alaric admitted. "But their disappearance coincides with the rise of the Critus. Draw your own conclusions." The implications sent shivers down Elias's spine. If the Thalorians had fallen to the same foe now pursuing humanity, then survival wasn't guaranteed, not even for civilizations vastly superior to their own. Still, the station offered more than shelter. Among its archives were references to experimental technologies designed to counteract biological and environmental degradation, the very issues plaguing human colonies across the galaxy. With further study, these innovations could provide solutions to problems humanity had struggled with for generations. As Sanctuary transformed into a functioning refuge, tensions eased slightly among the crew. Small victories, restored power grids, repaired life support systems, even hot meals served in communal areas, brought a semblance of normalcy to their harried existence. Yet the looming threat of the Critus remained ever-present, casting a shadow over every achievement. Rhea convened regular strategy sessions, encouraging input from all levels of the hierarchy. Ideas flowed freely, ranging from practical proposals to wildly speculative concepts inspired by the station's alien tech. One particularly daring suggestion came from Marcus, who proposed modifying scavenged Critus weaponry to enhance their own armaments. "It's risky," he acknowledged during a heated discussion. "But if we can turn their tools against them, we might gain the upper hand." Priya voiced concerns about feasibility, pointing out the inherent dangers of handling unknown technology. "Even if we succeed, there's no guarantee it'll work consistently or safely." Elias sided with Marcus, albeit cautiously. "We're running out of conventional options. If we don't try something unconventional, we're doomed anyway." With Rhea's approval, a specialized team began dismantling captured Critus devices, studying their mechanisms and attempting to integrate them into human systems. Progress was slow and fraught with setbacks, but each small breakthrough bolstered morale. Simultaneously, Alaric continued his work on the Thalorian AI, piecing together fragments of code in hopes of reactivating it. Though skeptical of its intentions, he believed it might hold answers critical to humanity's survival. Reactivation of the Thalorian AI proved both exhilarating and terrifying. After weeks of painstaking effort, Alaric succeeded in restoring partial functionality, initiating a dialogue with the entity. Dubbed Oracle by the crew, it communicated through cryptic phrases and fragmented imagery, offering glimpses of knowledge spanning eons. "You seek understanding," Oracle intoned during one such exchange. Yet understanding carries burdens greater than ignorance. "What burden?" Elias demanded, frustrated by the AI's evasive nature. "The truth of your adversaries," Oracle replied, "and the truth of yourselves." Despite its ambiguity, Oracle provided invaluable insights, revealing details about the Critus biology, motivations, and vulnerabilities. It also warned of an impending convergence, a cosmic event that would amplify the Critus aggression, driving them to expand their territory exponentially. "This changes everything," Rhea declared after reviewing the findings. "If Oracle is correct, we're looking at total annihilation unless we act decisively." Acting decisively meant accelerating their efforts. Work on integrating Critus tech intensified, while defensive preparations reached a fever pitch. Scouts dispatched to monitor nearby sectors reported increased Critus activity, confirming Oracle's predictions. With time running out, Elias led a reconnaissance mission to gather intelligence on the approaching Critus fleet. Piloting a modified fighter equipped with experimental enhancements, he ventured beyond the nebula's protective embrace, skirting the edges of enemy-controlled space. What he discovered chilled him to the bone. The Critus force was larger than anticipated, composed not only of warships but also massive carriers capable of deploying swarms of drones. Worse still, their formations exhibited a level of coordination never seen before, suggesting some form of centralized command. "They're evolving," Elias muttered, transmitting his findings back to Sanctuary. "Adapting faster than we can counter." Back aboard the station, panic threatened to overwhelm reason. Some advocated abandoning their position altogether, fleeing deeper into the uncharted regions despite the uncertainty. Others insisted on standing their ground, arguing that retreat would only delay the inevitable. Ultimately, Rhea brokered a compromise. "We'll fortify Sanctuary as best we can, but we'll also prepare contingencies. If things go south, we evacuate immediately." Preparations accelerated, blending human ingenuity with alien innovation. Traps were laid throughout the station, designed to exploit Critus weaknesses identified by Oracle. Weapon systems were upgraded, incorporating salvaged components alongside newly developed prototypes. Morale wavered but held steady, buoyed by a shared determination to survive. When the Critus finally arrived, the battle was fierce and unrelenting. Wave after wave of drones assaulted Sanctuary's defenses, probing for weaknesses while larger vessels loomed ominously in the distance. Inside, the crew fought valiantly, coordinating attacks and countermeasures with precision honed through countless drills. Elias piloted his enhanced fighter alongside Priya's squadron, engaging enemy ships in dogfights that pushed their skills to the limit. Each victory came at a cost, however, as casualties mounted and systems strained under relentless assault. Meanwhile, Alaric monitored Oracle closely, feeding real-time data into tactical displays and adjusting strategies based on emerging patterns. The AI's guidance proved instrumental, allowing defenders to anticipate and neutralize threats before they materialized. At a critical juncture, Elias executed a bold maneuver, leading a strike team directly into the heart of the Critus formation. Targeting the largest carrier, they unleashed a barrage of modified weapons, triggering a chain reaction that crippled the vessel and scattered its escorts. The gambit bought precious minutes, enabling evacuations to begin. Shuttles launched in rapid succession, carrying survivors away from the embattled station. As the last shuttle departed, Sanctuary succumbed to overwhelming odds. Explosions tore through its hull, consuming centuries of alien history and months of human perseverance in flames. Yet the sacrifice was not in vain. Thanks to Oracle's warnings and the crew's resourcefulness, the majority escaped, disappearing once again into the nebula's protective embrace. In the aftermath, reflections on loss mingled with gratitude for survival. Humanity endured, battered but unbroken, carrying forward lessons learned amid devastation. Elias stood at the helm of the lead shuttle, gazing out at the stars. His resolve hardened, not just to survive, but to prevail. "If we can adapt, innovate, and unite," he said quietly, "we'll find a way to win. For ourselves, and for those who came before." Years later, the legacy of Sanctuary lived on. Survivors rebuilt, drawing strength from adversity and wisdom from ancient allies. New alliances formed, bridging gaps between disparate groups united by a common cause. For Elias, the journey never truly ended. Each star represented a challenge, each horizon a promise. Humanity's story was far from finished. It had merely begun anew. If you enjoyed this epic tale of resilience, ingenuity, and the boundless possibilities of the cosmos, consider subscribing for more thrilling adventures spanning the stars. Thank you for joining us on this unforgettable journey through science fiction's limitless realms. Subscribe now and embark on your next great odyssey.